The first century after Christ was a period of profound historical importance in Judea under the shadow of Roman occupation. The region experienced a crucial intersection of political, religious, and cultural factors. The Temple of Central Jerusalem became a focal point of conflict and power in religious and cultural life, given its significance as the epicenter of Judaism. The Roman occupation imposed a government system that limited the autonomy of local authorities, creating a complex relationship between Jewish religious leaders and Roman authorities. This direct Roman influence affected daily life, culture, and governance in Judea, bringing not only a dominant military presence but also a system of taxation and political control. The temple, as a spiritual and religious epicenter, attracted thousands of pilgrims annually, giving it not only religious significance but also high political value. In this tense context of Roman occupation and intense religious tensions, figures such as Caiaphas and Annas emerged as influential leaders. Their positions as high priests placed them at the center of Jewish religious life and transformed them into crucial political figures with power over the temple and its practices. The relationship between Jewish religious leaders and the Romans was marked by constant tension, driven by the fear of revolts and the pursuit of preserving privileges. This historical background is essential to understanding the actions and decisions of figures such as Caiaphas and Annas, especially concerning the arrest, trial, and crucifixion of Jesus. I now invite you to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any details of this intriguing story. Let's continue the search for autonomy, the preservation of order in the temple, and the complex relationships between Jewish and Roman authorities. This period became a crucial chapter in the history of Judea in the first century after Christ, leaving a legacy of events that continue to influence the understanding of the biblical and historical narrative. Annas and Caiaphas occupied prominent positions in the context of Judea in the first century after Christ. Both were prominent religious leaders, playing crucial roles in the Temple of Jerusalem and the Jewish community at the time. Annas occupied the position of high priest not only once but several times, establishing a priestly dynasty in his family. This position further highlighted his importance to the religious leadership of the time. In addition to establishing a kind of priestly dynasty by appointing family members, Annas held considerable influence over the Temple of Jerusalem. He supervised rituals, administered sacrifices, and ensured compliance with religious laws. His position was not limited only to the religious aspect. Annas also exercised control over temple revenues and financial transactions, including the exchange of coins. However, his reputation for corruption and his connection with questionable practices shed light on his complex personality. Caiaphas, in turn, married the daughter of Annas and was appointed high priest around the year 18 after Christ, marking a crucial point in the biblical narrative. This marriage consolidated a powerful alliance between two prominent Judean families in the first century after Christ. When Christ became the son-in-law of Annas Caiaphas, he not only established a personal connection but also joined a priestly dynasty that exercised considerable control over religious and political matters in the region. This priestly dynasty was marked by remarkable continuity in the exercise of the high priesthood. Both Annas and 5 of his sons, in addition to Caiaphas, occupied the position of high priest. This succession not only illustrates the close relationship between these two figures, but also highlights the lasting influence of the family on the religious leadership of Judea. Caiaphas was known for his cunning opportunism and an incessant quest for power. His ability to navigate the intricate political and religious relationships of the time placed him in a prominent position. Both Annas and Caiaphas belonged to a sect that did not believe in the resurrection of the dead or the final judgment. This sect, possibly Pharisaic, had distinct beliefs that differentiated them from other Jewish currents of the time. Their specific convictions shaped their approaches to religious and political issues, influencing their decisions and actions during this critical period. Both of these leaders emerged in a tense context of Roman occupation, playing crucial roles in the plot that culminated in the crucifixion of Jesus. Understanding who Annas and Caiaphas were helps us unravel the remarkable events of this period. In the turbulent scenario of Judea under Roman oppression, Jewish leaders faced a constant dilemma between preserving order in the Temple of Jerusalem and giving in to the demands of the Roman authorities, who sought to maintain political control and avoid revolts. Annas and Caiaphas, as prominent figures, played crucial roles in this complex context. The religious leadership feared popular revolts and the loss of privileges under Roman rule. The role of Jesus in the spread of Christianity was revolutionary and challenging to the established structures of Judea. His teachings and miracles attracted a growing community of followers, generating concern and fear among religious leaders, especially Caiaphas and Annas. Representing the priestly elite, they feared that the charisma and popularity of Jesus could lead to a population revolt. The Roman occupation was already generating tensions, and the possibility of a charismatic figure uniting the masses around ideas that challenged the established authorities was a reason for great concern. This fear led to the conception of a plan for the capture and imprisonment of Jesus. Aware that arresting Jesus publicly could result in riots, Caiaphas and Annas sought a more cautious approach. They decided to act discreetly without attracting the attention of the people, but ensuring that Jesus was neutralized before his growing influence became a real threat. The plan was meticulously crafted, and Caiaphas, known for his political astuteness, led the initiative. Taking advantage of the betrayal of Judas Iscariot, one of Jesus' closest followers, Caiaphas and Annas found an ideal opportunity to achieve their goals. Judas, motivated by personal reasons or disappointments, offered to deliver Jesus in secret. At the appropriate time, when Jesus was out of the public eye and in an environment less likely to cause uproar, the plan was put into practice. The arrest took place during the night, ruling out the possibility of an immediate reaction from the masses. Concerned about preserving order and his authority, Caiaphas and Annas ensured that Jesus' arrest was conducted without fanfare, thus avoiding an imminent revolt. At the heart of the plot against Jesus, Caiaphas played a leading role in the Sanhedrin, the Jewish council of religious leaders. He skillfully manipulated the process to justify the condemnation of Jesus. His political cunning was evident in claiming that sacrificing Jesus was necessary to avoid revolts and maintain peace in the nation. This strategy aimed to preserve not only political stability, but also the privileges and power of religious leadership. Before Pilate, the Roman governor, Jesus faced a scenario marked by false accusations. Caiaphas, representing the Jewish leadership, pushed for a decision that would culminate in crucifixion. Caiaphas's motivations were clear. The elimination of Jesus was perceived as a necessary measure to preserve the status quo and avoid any perceived threat to religious and political authority. The decision to crucify Jesus was not just an act of punishment, but a calculated strategy to protect the interests of the Jewish religious leadership. Annas and Caiaphas, amid their tensions and fears, played decisive roles in this outcome. After the death of Jesus, the post-crucifixion period revealed the persistence of the influence of Caiaphas, who refused to accept the evidence of Jesus' resurrection. His refusal to recognize this transformative event demonstrates the resistance of the Jewish religious leadership to accept any challenge to their established authority. Caiaphas's refusal to accept the resurrection was not only a matter of theological disagreement, but also a reaction to an event that shook the foundations of religious leadership at the time. Jesus' resurrection represented a validation of the messages and teachings he had uttered, something that Caiaphas and his peers were not willing to accept, as this would question their authority and the decisions taken against Jesus. In addition to the refusal to accept the resurrection, Caiaphas played an active role in the persecution of Jesus' followers. These persecutions were an extension of the Jewish leadership's resistance to the spread of new beliefs that emerged around the figure of Jesus. Caiaphas, representing a religious authority that felt threatened by the growing Christian communities, sought to repress the spread of what they considered a threat to the established order. The participation of Caiaphas in persecutions included the authorization for the arrest of followers of Jesus, and even the authorization for the persecution of some prominent figures, such as Stephen, one of the first deacons of the early Christian church. His energetic stance against Christians reflected his determination to maintain the cohesion and authority of Jewish leadership, even in the face of the growing Christian movement that challenged his traditional beliefs. As for Annas, after playing a prominent role in the religious leadership of Judea, he had a destiny that extended beyond the events surrounding the death of Jesus. His reputation for corruption and his excesses in religious practices marked him as a controversial figure. After the crucifixion of Jesus, he continued to exert his influence in the Temple of Jerusalem. His prominent position was not only limited to the immediate period after the death of Jesus, but extended, showing the resilience of his authority even in the face of political and religious changes. However, there are historical records that indicate that Annas eventually met his end at the hands of the Romans around the year 70 after Christ. This event marked the end of Annas's life, but his influence and fame persisted even after his death. Annas's reputation for corruption was associated with objectionable practices in the temple, including the animal trade and exchange of coins, as mentioned in the Gospels. These commercial activities in the temple, although profitable, contributed to the bad reputation of Annas and other religious leaders of the time. The continued influence of Annas after the death of Jesus can be seen in the subsequent actions of his descendants. The priestly dynasty established by Annas lasted, with some of his sons and relatives occupying the position of high priest. On the other side, Caiaphas's final fate is somewhat curious. Sometime later, when workers were building a road in a park south of ancient Jerusalem, archaeologists came across a tomb that, upon examination, revealed itself to be the final resting place of members of the Caiaphas family. The most ornate tomb bore the inscription of the name Jose, identified as a son of the Caiaphas family. This discovery brought to light not only the existence of the tomb, but also raised heated debates about its authenticity. The authenticity of the discovery was called into question by some scholars and archaeologists, generating an intense debate within the academic community. Defenders of authenticity point to the correlation between the description of the tomb and the historical accounts of Flavius Josephus, a Jewish historian of the time. The inscription of the name Joseph, son of the Caiaphas family, coincides with the narratives documented by Josephus, adding a level of credibility to the discovery. However, skeptics question the authenticity based on several points, including the possibility of forgery or selective interpretation of evidence. The debate remains open, and archaeologists continue to analyze the tomb in detail in search of more clues that may clarify its origin and connection with Caiaphas. The biblical narrative, with Caiaphas and Annas as central characters, invites reflection on the nature of power and the responsibility of leadership, as well as the ethical challenges that arise when personal interests collide with higher principles. If you liked this video, I ask you to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and click on one of these 2 videos that will appear on your screen. I'm sure you'll love it. Hugs and stay with God.